Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi friends, welcome to Productive Joy. I have a new friend to introduce you to. His name is David Wooding, and he's lots of amazing things. He is an author, he is a real estate guru, and a real idea man, but he's a husband and a father to 3 beautiful girls. He's also a tennis player, like in a league tennis player, but he got there when he realized that his love for tennis and pickleball didn't quite go together, so he went with the tennis route. And he takes real pride in his family. He's a girl dad through and through, right down to the dog. And he's our guest today on Productive Joy. Welcome, David.
Hey, well, thank you. Thank you. What a great actual introduction. I don't know how to beat that. that guy that you were talking about isn't here, but I had to step in for him.
You'll be just fine. I think that was the guy I was introducing, and I'm so excited to get to know you, and I know our listeners are too, but by nature, they're going to get bored quick. So how would you convince them that this is something worth listening to in like 30 seconds or less?
It's something I think it's almost like a James Bond novel. I think my book is. So there's a lot of sort of financial stress in there, which I'm going to talk about in the book. I used to be an international model as well back in the day, amazingly. We're going to cover in my book, there's things like death, divorce, cheating. There's just so much to come out going forward, and I think it's going to be worth it. And I have a nice English accent, so why wouldn't you want to stick around and listen to my English accent? Right?
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, so hold on, back up. You have written a book recently. It's called 60 Not Out, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's back up because you didn't start there, you got there. What was your impetus for saying, I mean, it sounds like you had a pretty exciting life that you needed to share, but what was the impetus for writing a book? What made you decide now was the time?
It was actually a form of therapy, because despite all this outer happiness and stuff and smiling all the time, behind this smile, there's actually been a lot of turmoil, a lot of anguish, and a lot of stress, which I've taken on myself, and it's translated into my family. To get into the States, we made an investment visa. This is going back sort of 18 years or so now. We invested in a ski resort in Vermont. It was called J Peak, still called J Peak. It's still there. Unfortunately for us, even though we did all our due diligence and everything, it ended up being a 100% scam, and we lost a lot of money. So unfortunately for me, I tried to keep working through it and not acknowledge it. So it's a very British thing, I think, and definitely a very male thing to do is we smile. Everyone says to you, hey, how are you doing today? You're like, everything's really great, thank you. And it's really not. And actually, I think 10 years ago to the day almost, we found out that we'd lost this substantial amount of money. And for 8 years, only a small core of people in our inner circle knew what we'd been through. Everyday people, work colleagues, people that, on our periphery never knew. And I never told them. I wanted to keep it in myself and see if we could work through it. I tried that for probably 8 years, which is crazy to shoulder this angst that we were going through. And eventually the cracks, I think, started to show with my daughters, and obviously with my wife Vanessa. We just noticed that there was this mental depression, this dark cloud had settled well and truly over my head, and I just got used to it. You know what I mean? I was operating on probably 70% of what I should have been from a happiness point of view. So my middle daughter said to me, look, Dad, you've got to do something. She's very sensible. You've got to do something about this, because you're just going to end up, who knows where you're going to end up, sort of thing. So she said, why don't you just write all these thoughts that you've got down on a piece of paper? Why don't you go to the top of a mountain, which I know is hard in Florida, right? And set fire to it and let it just go there. And then hopefully you can release all of this that you're feeling and you're struggling with. And I thought, well, yes, I could do that, but I felt that would be more of a temporary fix, because it was still very enrooted in me. So I thought I've got to sit down and actually I didn't think I'm going to write a memoir. I'm going to write a book initially about the whole experience from of the JP and the loss of the money and the effects it had on us. And my initial thought was the book would probably be, let's say, 80% of this anger that I'm spilling out, and maybe just 20% of me as a happy chap and this, that, and the other. But to get that balance, I had to go back to sort of my childhood, and I started writing about going through school and early experiences and the whole traveling thing that I did. I did a lot of international traveling, which led into international modeling, and we've done businesses. And I actually ended up thinking, my goodness, I've had a really good life. Why am I sat at home moping around about money that we've lost essentially, when the world doesn't really just revolve around that? It revolves around relationships, it revolves around how you interact with people, your family, and I felt it was the catalyst, and it worked out to be really, very, very therapeutic for me.
I love that. Well, okay, so kudos to your daughter for recognizing that sometimes we got to get what's in here out.
Yeah.
There's a lady that founded the company that I work for, and she says, "How do I know what I think until I see what I write?" And I think that that's exactly what happened to you, right? So your
Yeah,
daughter was the
definitely.
impetus, but then as you wrote this out, you have this really great story that you're choosing to tell the world. But that story isn't smooth, right? Like it's not all butterflies and
No.
bubbles. And I think the realness of being able to admit, hey, things haven't always been
Yeah,
lovely, is what makes people want to keep reading. So
yeah.
you figured some things out about yourself and you turned it into a memoir meets ideas. Like tell us a little bit more about the book itself. And when I pick it up, what am I going to get out of it and who should be reading it?
I think it's a book for probably all audiences. I probably wouldn't recommend anyone 12 or 13 and under reading it, because there is references to, like, a little bit when I was younger, a little bit of drinking, a little bit of stuff that I probably shouldn't have done in retrospect. So maybe just bear that in mind. But anyone else, it's something that it's my journey, and I think that it's inspirational for me to see what I did, and I think it'll be inspirational for other people to see that we are the results of our journey, aren't we, through life? I mean, I've got to 60 now, and hence the book title 60 Not Out. And I'm still going, I'm still breathing, I'm still healthy, I still have a roof above my head. Even though it's a rented roof above my head, we still have a roof above our head. Um, and for me, the whole book thing really put into perspective the fact that life does go. It's going to, regardless. Anyone probably watching now is going to have had issues in life that they've had to deal with, and it's how we step up to them, isn't it? And I say I can walk past 30 people today and just smile and say, "Hey, how are you? Good morning," and they'll smile back at me. But behind that smile, they may be having a terrible day. They may be having a great day. But I would hazard a guess that probably 50% of them are like really not doing that well. And I think I'm trying to reach those people. A lot of people that I've spoke to about me opening up and saying about my mental health issues, that this has affected me, are like, well, kudos to you, Dave. Fair play for standing up, because I am exposing myself to,
Mhm.
I guess, a lot of questions. I'm putting a lot of stuff out there that people don't know about me. People don't know about Vanessa, my wife, and I guess consequentially, our kids. They're going to be in the limelight, so to speak. Um, so I think it was a bold step to actually write the book. But when I got into it, it was so therapeutic. And as you probably know, because you can't just think, oh, I'm going to sit down and write for 3 hours today,
Uh-uh.
because you'll sit there and you look at a piece of paper and nothing comes. You can be walking the dog, you could be at public
Mhm.
shopping, you could be driving down and something comes to you, and I had to almost pull the car over, and I'd make notes, because I
Yeah.
thought that's great for my book. And then I'd get home and I would just spew out for 4 or 5 hours a chapter or two, and then I wouldn't have any inspiration maybe for another week. So the whole thing, I started writing probably 18 months ago. The whole book took about 10 or 11 months to write in total. And then the whole publishing process was a little bit longer than I thought as well. But I think if I'm sort of talking or speaking to the book, I think it's, for me, it was inspirational. And I think if someone reads it, I hope that they would see that I've been through X, Y, and Z, and I'm still on the other side of it, and I'm still relatively level-headed about it, even though you're probably guessing now I'm a little bit quirky.
No, you're perfect because you're showing up as your authentic self, right? And
Yeah.
I think the vulnerability that you're willing to show by writing something that is less than perfect is really, it's both inspirational but also aspirational, right? It's the kind of thing that we should all hope we can do. And I
Yeah.
appreciate your writing process because that's similar to mine, right? Like I might have this idea and I do a talk to text and then it might be several days. But I
Yeah.
don't know that everybody understands that that is productive joy, right? Like that's
Yeah.
that moment. So I get to ask you my favorite question because every guest gets their own answer. And so when you hear the phrase productive joy, what comes to mind?
It makes me smile. The first thing I want to do when I hit, no, it's because we're working towards joy for ourselves. We're working towards joy for our family and our network, and also the world generally. I think productive. To me, I think productive means you've got to go through something to get to the joy. That's what
Mhm.
I'm getting from that. So it's sort of, it doesn't just happen, does it? We don't just wake up in the morning and we're happy or we're joyful. We have to work to realize where that joy comes from. We all have joy in us. I think at all times we're born with joy, and I think it's a process that you have to keep working at to remember that that joy is there. You know, it's like the little flower. You know, you can buy yourself a little flower, but if you just leave it in the corner of the room, it's going to die within 3 or 4 days. So you have to give it light, and you have to give it water to nurture it. For me, it's a nurturing process. Productive joy. I think it's something that doesn't just happen. It takes a little bit of work, but it's joyful work. You know, to get to that stage.
Oh, I love that. And I appreciate the word picture of nurturing something, right?
Yeah.
So joy is a choice in my mind. And what I have loved about this process, I think you're like episode 260 something.
Yeah.
What I have enjoyed about the process is that with each guest comes a different response. And when those responses unfold, there are themes, there are ideas behind them. And the biggest one that I've seen overall is that joy is a choice. Like you have to go through something to get to it. And
Yeah.
that's what I liked about your definition is the productive part is going through something to get to the joy. Because society would have us believe, right? We live in this Instagram instant world where we see everybody's A roll. We don't see anybody's B roll, right? Like, so we don't see the mistakes. We don't see the burnt dinners or the messed up moments or the fights. We see what they choose to show us. And that is typically pretty polished. But life isn't polished and it's messy. And so that's what I like about your book and your approach is that you're letting people peek behind the curtain and see the messy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think for me as well, it's not that I always felt invincible,
mm,
but like when I was younger, everything worked out for me, you know, without really having to try. So, you know, I was always lucky if there was, you know, something I was going for, I was always in the running to get it. I didn't always get it, but I would, you know, it was down to the two people. I was always in the last two, and we were always very lucky when we were younger life with say property. We'd buy a home and it would appreciate, and then the market worked with us, and then we would sell it, and we're like, oh, we've got a little bit of money here, and so everything was easy. I mean, I know that's life isn't easy, but we were blessed, and I think I sort of came to rely on that as the norm, and
mm,
it's not the norm. I think I was very fortunate, and so for say 25 years, everything was plain sailing, very easy, never had to worry about money issues, health issues, anything. And what my book, I think, helped me realize is that even when I was going through those great times, I'm sure there was a lot of people that I came into contact with who were really struggling.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't recognize that at the time, because not that I'm high and mighty and you put yourself on a pedestal, but when everything's going well, you have an aura about you. You have this confidence, and you don't really look, you don't peel the onion of other people that you meet. You just take people on surface value, and I'm okay. So why
So
aren't you
obviously.
okay? Um, and I think what I've realized is now that I'm on the other side of that, and I do see people who are obviously very successful, more so now in my later life, because obviously people have had a whole career in something, they've built businesses, they've sold them for lots of money. And I see the other side of that now. And I'm not going to lie, I do get jealous, because jealous is an emotion that we all feel. So, and I'm envious. But I also think, well, I had that at one stage. But through choices and through a bigger sphere of what's happening with us, my path changed. And that path changed, I think, for a reason. Maybe if I'd have stayed on that path, I'd have got arrogant, and I'd have eaten too much, I'd have maybe drunk too much, and maybe I'd had a heart attack, because I'm counting all my money in the bank. Oh, I've got that. Oh, I'm dead or something. So I understand that the whole thing that I've gone through, there is a reason for it. And even me being, as I thought, the guy, like I say, I've traveled the world, I've modeled, we walked, me and some friends, when in our early 20s, I walked from the UK to Austria. Which is crazy. I know we hitchhiked. We basically went to the end of our road in middle of November, October, put our thumbs out, three guys, and we just jumped in cars, and we ended up getting all the way down to the south of England. We got on a ferry, we got into Holland, we hitchhiked through Holland and Germany into Austria.
Oh
and
my
then
goodness.
we slept in a railway toilet one night, which I'm not proud of, but we did. We got locked in a toilet. But all little crazy things like this, which I'd sort of forgotten, it's at the back of my mind. And then, but I put it in my book, and I thought, God, that was fun. I mean, I wouldn't do that now. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend. Die if my daughters were doing that. But I
do
hate
as
to
I
think what
say,
my
not as I
parents
do.
thought. Yeah, exactly. So I just think that it's life's a balance, isn't it? It's sometimes you have what you think is everything, but the yin yang thing, it means that other people necessarily aren't. And then when they get something, your scales are probably going to tip back down a bit, because to keep the equilibrium. And I think my book and the process of writing the book has helped me realize is that life would be boring if it was just constantly this. And we have to have these ups and downs, because that's what is character building, and that's what makes us who we are. And so I think I've resigned myself to the fact that at the moment this season has been a struggle, but there's going to be another season, and I've got to keep my skin in the game, and I've got to remain positive for my own sake, for my family's sake. And that's, the book was almost like, when I finished the book, see, to me, it doesn't matter if I don't sell one copy, because I think it's the fact that it's done and it's documented what I've been through, and I can now put a line and everything and move forward without this baggage. So
That's
it's
powerful. David, so I was listening to a podcast recently. I honestly don't remember which one it was. I think it was Diary of a CEO, but they were talking about the fact that in this new world of AI, we are eliminating friction. But the only way that we can learn anything is through friction. So, it's making things a lot easier, right? Okay, I can figure this thing out, but I didn't have to work for it. There was none of this back and forth. And what you're doing a beautiful job of is painting the realistic picture of the friction that's necessary to gain something. So you're talking to a bunch of leaders who want to do things differently, right? The people that listen to this podcast are looking to create a little more productive joy. So what advice would you have for them as they're navigating the friction and trying to figure out how to come out on the other side?
I think it's very important initially to stay true to yourself. I think that's very important. I don't think we all have to compromise in life and in the world, because that's how we get to the end goal ultimately. A little bit of compromise on each side, but never sort of sell your true beliefs just to get to there. I think because at the end of the day, I think it's very important that you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, well, I didn't really believe what that person was saying or what they were doing, and I stood my ground, and I, politely, I'm not advocating we get, aggressive into arguments, but sort of say, look, I understand your point of view, but this is how, I feel, and I want to help you, but I'm not going to compromise my beliefs based on that. And I think for me, it would have been very easy to have just thrown the towel in and said, look, we've lost, a lot of money. We did lose a lot of money, and we couldn't live in our house. We had to sell our house. And ever since we've actually rented, we've only been in rented properties for the last 12 years. We've moved 13 times in
Oh,
12
wow.
years, basically.
Wow.
Through no fault of our own, it's always our landlord that's changed their mind. And despite the fact that they say, oh, we're never going to sell the house, and they decide, oh, the market's good, let's sell the house. And I'm transgressing, but no, I think what is important is that we just all have to look at the bigger picture. And I think the bigger picture is compromise, but also staying true to your core values. And that's what I try to, like I said, going back to what I was saying about, if someone had said to me, you're going to lose this money, you're not going to be able to do this, you're not going to own a house, you're not doing this, I'd be like, well, what's the point of going on, right? I may as well just stay in bed, but then you look at your family, and you look at, it's not just me, I'm a provider, as well as my wife's also a provider for our children. So I don't want them to, I want them to look at me and be proud of who I am and say, I know, Dad, you've struggled. I know it was hard, but you owned up to those struggles and you're working through them. And I take pride in you as my father, and I'm going to take that spirit that you've got into my way of how I deal with issues I get to in life. And if I can think back in 30, 40 years, oh, I remember my dad, he had all these troubles and he didn't quit, he didn't give in, he carried on. And if that's the only thing I can pass on to my kids, that's all I want to be able to pass on to them, that strength to carry on when it's difficult.
I guarantee you have passed that on to your children already, and you will continue to do so because it's just who you are. And that's exceptional and special and not always the case. So, how might our listeners find you? What's the best way for them to get their hands on your book or to learn more about you?
I did set up a website. I say it's little, but a website is a website. It's either big or small. It's just a little thing. I set up a website, 60notout.com, www.60notout.com. And basically in there, it gives you a little bit of background about me. It gives you a little bit of background about the book. There's also some links on there. You can get a paperback book printed in the US, sent to you. And I've actually got a link in the UK, but that's probably irrelevant. And then there's also a link to Amazon as well. So there's an ebook version as well, which you click on that. Which will give you, like I say, some background and also links to, if you are interested in buying the book, then you'll be able to do that there.
Yay. Well, I love that people are able to find you easily. 60 not out. You spell out 60, right?
Yes. Correct,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have some rapid fire questions for you, David. Would you be willing to answer them?
Absolutely. Yes.
I know.
If you
No
don't
pressure.
hold me to them.
There are no wrong
pressure.
answers. That's the beautiful part of this. Okay. Question number 1. What's your definition of fun?
Fun is hanging out with my family and my kids on a Sunday afternoon with nothing to do apart from just laugh and joke and tell stories.
Oh, I love it. I love it. We did that yesterday with my family, and it was just perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you know that you are showing up as your authentic self?
I think I've got the wrinkles to prove it. I think I just take things as they come. I know I'm not fake, and I know that everything I put out there, especially now after writing this book, is I want people to know me. I don't want them just to see, like I said, if that smiling face, I don't want them to think he's okay because he looks like he's okay. I want them to think that he's okay because he's expressed to me that he's not okay, if
Mm,
that makes sense.
yeah.
He's opened up his soul. So he's a genuine guy because he's willing to talk about his struggles, and I think that's how people would know that I'm a genuine guy.
Well, and I think that's how people know they can be genuine near you, with you, next to you.
Yeah.
That's huge. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
Best self on worst days. I think I take strength from Vanessa, my wife. She reads me very well. She can see if I'm struggling with something, and she'll give me like a look or ask me, say, "Hey, is everything okay?" And she encourages me to work through it and to talk. Um, if that doesn't work, I tend to walk the dog. The dog goes on a very long walk.
You know what? There's power in both of those. Surround yourself with people who know you well and support you
Yeah,
in the process, and then have an escape, a physical
yeah,
way to reset, which is
yeah,
huge.
for sure. Yeah.
David, this is not going to be an easy question because you have said some beautiful things and you've kind of walked us through your journey, and given us some things to think about for sure. And um, my final question is one of my
Okay.
favorites. So, people are only by nature going to be able to remember one thing from our time together. So, what's the one major idea that you want people to walk away with today?
I want them to be fearless in life and resilient. I think it's very important that despite everything that can be bombarded at you in this life, and let's face it, you are going to get hit with some really tough stuff. If you
Yeah.
get to 60 like I have, there's a lot of stuff out there, and it's how you have the mental attitude and actually work through that. So I would want people to think that it's a book of inspiration. It's something that, like I said to you before, I feel like I came from a place that I was very fortunate. I was blessed, and I did have almost everything. And for me to be knocked down as badly as I was and our family was, the fact that we're still going and we're still pushing forward in search of that next door, that next opportunity, everyone should have that opportunity, and I think that's important for people to not give up, and I think it's important to smile, but smile for the right reason. Have that story behind, and if people maybe ask an extra question, if you see someone when you're out and you say, "Hey, how are you today?" They say, "Hey, I'm great, thanks, how are you?" And you don't, maybe ask one more question, not prying, but sort of just go a little level deeper, because then if they want to open up, maybe they will open up. And I find I talk, which is weird. Vanessa always laughs at it, but I always have an affinity to talking to older people. Like I gravitate to, like, sounds weird, but it's not weird, older ladies and older gentlemen, because I someone said to me once, maybe you are the only person they see that day, or they are going to have an interaction with. And even if I'm buying broccoli in the grocery store, if a guy comes up next to me, I'm like, "Hey, how are you today?" And then I always do say, "Oh, what are you choosing? What are you going to cook tonight, or what you think?" Because, like I say, he could be sat at home on his own for 20 hours a day, and his big thing is going to the grocery store. So I think for me, it's important to include people that you wouldn't normally include in your life, because I think that could make it'll make you feel better, but it could really make them feel a lot better. And I think that's an important thing.
David, you have been delightful. And I love that last little nugget that you gave us, that, we might be the only sunshine in somebody's day. We might be the
Yeah,
only productive joy that they get to have. So why wouldn't we
yeah,
just take the minute that it takes to say hi and actually listen to the response when we ask them how
yeah,
they are?
yeah.
So this was delightful. I am so grateful that you chose to spend your time with us. And listeners, I need you to now do something with this information. So David gave us a lot to to think about with, 60 not out means that we're not ever out. And it doesn't matter what's happened in our life. We learn from it, we grow, and we keep going. So what is going on in your world today that needs to have you keep going? And how can you capitalize on that? So I need you to grab 1 or 2 or 6 things that you heard David say, and I need you to figure out a way today to turn fun into action. Yay!